So if you were like me, you started playing PUBG in the beginning when it started to really kind of catch on, especially on social media like YouTube and Twitch. People started getting more and more into it, and you start playing it especially with your friends. And then it kind of peaked around, what was it, like 3 million, over 3 million concurrent players. And then you just kind of dropped off. And that's at least what happened to me, and that's why I kind of want to check out how was PUBG doing in 2020. Hello, my beautiful, lovely gamers, as always. My name is Jonal. If you can like on this video, it helps against YouTube's algorithm, so go for a comment. Give me your rating from a scale from 0 to 10. What is your opinion on PUBG? I would especially like to know that from newer players, just kind of got introduced to it, or comeback players, but also for more experienced veterans that has been playing this game and didn't drop off, or actually play this game at a frequent basis and are actually good at it compared to what I am. And that is essentially in the end of the video. Of course, I will give my rating of what I think PUBG is here in 2020, if it's worth your time, or if you want to buy into it again. But without further ado, let's really just talk about it. So, PUBG currently, when you check out Steam chart, has a 24-hour peak of about 350,000 players. Now, this is, of course, down from its 3.2 million players way back. And again, I've heard people say, oh, PUBG is dying, PUBG is a dead game. With 350,000 players, it's not a dead game. It is incredibly common, and again, if anybody says that PUBG is a dead game or a dying game, I think that is incredibly false in the way, just from the pure stats. If you have over 300,000 players, your game is way healthy and alive. If you check my How is Titanfall 2 doing in 2020 video, they had not even remotely to close to those numbers, and I've said that that game was thriving with players that can quickly get into lobbies, quickly just have fun. So yeah, in my opinion, from player count wise, it's doing great. And also from other aspects. One, it felt like the game is better optimized. That might just be me being able to change some settings and tweak some stuff to make it run at a very stable frame rate, and therefore me feeling that it feels better. But in my opinion, it felt better, more consistent, a little bit better optimized. That might just be me thinking, but at least, especially of course logically from the early days of PUBG, way back before it even was a fully released game. Back then, of course, it was buggy and very unoptimized, very laggy, and it feels far more smooth and just far more better implemented. Now, just to give a background, I left the game. I stopped playing the game more frequently right around when Miramar was released, right? So the second map. I played a lot of Marangale, and that was like essentially what me and my players would play all the time. New map was released, and by then I was already kind of dropping a bunch of my interest on the game, and I do believe I came back for a little bit of time. I kind of jumped a little bit on and off with some friends, but I came back around when Sandhawk was live. I played a little bit of that, didn't really touch it before way later. So that's essentially my experience with it. Played it very early and then kind of dropped off around the second map release. Now, there's a bunch of stuff that's been better, not just performance-wise, but the amount of content. There are game modes. There's 5 maps now. So that is just variation and content you can play through. And some of them have different kind of mimics to them. One has a train that's driving around. One has lower player numbers. And Hawk is a very close quarter map where you can have fun by hot dropping into these military bases, which is just fun if you really want to get into some intense gunfights. And in general, just a very enjoyable experience when it comes to the map content. Also variation of guns on different maps, which makes maps feel a little bit different, a little bit special when you find guns that you normally won't be allowed to get access to. And also when it comes to stuff like they have introduced a team deathmatch mode, which is just great for practicing and having, again, a more, if you want to just get better at FPS gaming when it comes to the 1v1, there's a practice range where you can practice recoil patterns, but if you want to practice taking fights against other players, you need to have a mode such as an FPS kind of arena, duelist, team deathmatch, or free-for-all, where you can actually practice on the gunplay, practice on taking these fights, practicing on hitting the shots, the pressure that you're being under, potentially flinching if there's that in the game, how people are strafing, hitting those tight shots on corners, leaning, and all that good stuff, which you can only get from having realistic fights. And especially in a battle royale, where when you die, you're out. That is incredibly important to have. So seeing that introduction, incredibly good. I've had some good times with that, just playing around on the team deathmatch servers, wasn't my cup of tea. Got, in my opinion, a little bit stale over a short amount of time, as most of the maps either felt the same or I got the same maps over and over again, with very little variation to them in terms of gameplay, at least from what I felt. But generally, was a fun experience, had some good times, and in general, was just a good way of getting reintroduced to the game by having some players that I can practice just shooting and getting used back used to the shooting mechanics of the game. Now, there are some questionable stuff in the way that they've done it. One thing that I do actually like that I want to point out is that they have split their rank mode from their kind of unrated or casual mode. Before, as I remember correctly, when you were playing, because I did come back for a short period of time, you played the game, every game was essentially a rank game, so you did get rank when you were playing. Now those are split into two. And that's fine, and I think that's, from my opinion at least, quite fun. The issue is how they have treated the unrated mode. So, for example, I didn't want to play ranked because I didn't, I could of course have played solo. I just didn't want to play ranked. I'd want to just play some unrated, have some fun with the game. I did not want to drop into a game where potential players were actually trying at the game and trying to beat me. I just wanted to play, have some fun, check out the game. I did play a little bit of ranked and got dumpstered because I'm pretty bad at the game. But I was playing a little bit around with that, and the unrated mode has something that I think is a very weird introduction. And if you play PUBG, you probably know what I'm going to talk about, and that is that PUBG on PC has bots in their unrated or casual lobbies, which, for my opinion, is just weird, and kind of, I was just stupid. I understand the logic behind the fact that a developer would like to cut down queue times for a casual mode, so you just can get into a game, and that's good. But at the same time, if you are trash like I am, you get a nice reintroduction to the game. Where there's some bots, so you get to shoot at them, you get to get some kills, you get some good feeling that you're doing good, and then you can carry on with your day. And then you can jump into ranked if you don't want to face bots. So they have managed to divide them in a pretty even way. The issue arises with the fact that when I was playing, I was running around looting, I was also trying to get some thumbnails, and it was very obvious that there were bots coming to me, and then they were dying. And the first map, it was like, oh, I got some kills, this is fun. The fifth map, it was like, okay, this is not entertaining anymore. It's not fun shooting AI, it's not fun shooting something that is clearly programmed to be absolutely garbage at the game, and not purposely throwing. And it's not that fun that I use so much time to kill some of them, because I can't control my recoil. That is just even more embarrassing. But, in my opinion, it is a logical way to introduce it, and it sounds really good. It sounds bad on paper, but if you look away from the stigma, it actually sounds like a good idea. You get shorter queue times, bad players get an introduction to fighting bots, and just essentially just getting a back introduction in it. And if you want to avoid them, jump into ranked. But if you just want to jump around, play, and have some fun, I don't want to face bots. It is not challenging, it is not fun, and it doesn't give any form of dopamine or reward by shooting an AI that is programmed to lose against me, or doing ridiculous stuff like running into me so I can kill it easier. It doesn't feel good. One, it gives away positioning, and that's something on its own. And two, it is just that it kind of feels like when you were a kid and your parent let you win at a board game once against them, or right when you're a kid and your dad, oh yeah, you totally scored on me in football when you're 5 years old. Logically your dad could run the track with you, right? But while it might feel good the first time when you understand that somebody's on purposely losing to you, right? It doesn't feel good anymore, because it's not you doing anything, it's not you winning, it is the game on purposely losing for you to have a good time. And it's a little bit deceiving, and it just doesn't feel right, in my opinion, and became one of those where, yes, it is fun that I'm getting kills, but the enjoyment of getting a kill, the enjoyment of getting into a firefight, the risk, and the kind of the whole PvP aspect where you are facing another player, you need to peek him and take angles and take shots and control your gun and positioning and watch out that no squad is flanking you. All of that kind of got thrown out the window as soon as you knew that there was a bot fighting you or multiple bots fighting you. Where it's like, okay, this is just a bot, I get this kill, and then nothing. And it was one of those where, when I was going into fights or when I was running around the map and I saw somebody, I was not very excited. Until if I found out that he was a player, excitement kind of increased a little bit, but it was all this oh, right, it's probably a bot mentality, which isn't good. When I see a player in PUBG, I should feel, oh shit, shit's about to go down. I'm supposed to fight this guy, kill him, or I'm out. There's supposed to be a risk. There's supposed to be a reward attached to it with, oh, this guy's probably had great loot. The bots have shit loot on them. They're not challenging. And if there's no risk, there's no reward, there's nothing. It's just emptiness. And it, in my opinion, kills the pacing that you're replacing potential players that I could be fighting with bots. Sometimes I drop... On some maps, there had to be a ridiculous amount of bots. Because I dropped pretty early on some of the maps. And there was no one around me. And then all of a sudden, players just magically teleported close to me and started fighting me, and that logically was other bots. And if that could have been, I don't care, if there were 4 bots in my area and I killed all 4, wow, what a challenge, right? But if that had been 1 or 2 players, I would have had more enjoyment from fighting that 1 or 2 players in my area than these bots on purposely feeding into my gun. And I personally think that that's a bad way of treating it. And yes, you can play ranked if you want to, but if you want to just sit down and enjoy PUBG and just have fun, and just play a game casually for fun, maybe with friends, maybe alone, it is, in my opinion, kind of ruining some of the, almost about to say the competitive integrity, but that's the wrong word, just the gameplay experience that you're facing up against AI. But besides that, again, the game runs smoothly, the gunplay is as always, and I'm not really scared for the future of PUBG for people that think, should I invest in this game? How is the future of this game looking? Because in my opinion, PUBG has really carved out a segment of players and its own spot in the Battle Royale genre. If you look at something like Apex and Warzone, 2 very popular Battle Royale games, right? And I will exclude Fortnite because I think that's a completely different category than Apex, Warzone, and PUBG. If you look at those 2, they are arcade-like shooters. Normally very low recoil, a little bit slower TTK than PUBG, and much faster movement, much more movement-based FPS games. And again, very arcadey in the way that they are doing their shooting and their weapon swapping, and generally how you play and move around in the game. It's a very arcade-like shooter. And that is fun, and that's the type of FPS game that I do enjoy myself the most. I do generally enjoy PUBG as well. I've actually enjoyed it more than what I thought I would. But I enjoy Apex and Warzone better because that's my style of game. It is much, much fast-pacer. It is a better movement system that I like, and much more arcadey type of shooting. And that's what I find enjoyable comparatively to this more hardcore tactical FPS, which is what PUBG is. And that's also why PUBG is such a good game, because it has carved out its own identity. It is not competing with other Battle Royales, really, because there's no other, in my opinion, Battle Royale that is just like realistic, slower paced, incredibly hard recoil, super fast CTK Battle Royales out there. And that's not that, for example, one of my really good friends, he is like that. He doesn't like Overwatch, which I play a lot logically from this channel. He doesn't like Apex, he doesn't really like Warzone from what I have understood, but he does like, or at least really did like, PUBG, because it was tactical, slower pace, it was circles, recoil on the weapons, which really changes just how the game is played, from what ranges you can start fighting, and so on. And he really enjoyed that type of game. He was really good at that type of game. And there was a reason that no other Battle Royale really was competing with him, because nothing made anything that was remotely close to that PUBG experience. And I think that, yes, logically, when PUBG was launched and really started catching up steam, there was all this hype, all your friends were playing it, of course you were playing it, and it was also the fact that it was bringing really something to the table that not a lot of other games could. But now that there's Apex and of course Fortnite, but also Warzone, the market has been filled, and that's why there's a drop of players, because one, people get tired of playing the same thing over and over and over again. That's why people quit League of Legends and Overwatch and other FPS games, and Fortnite, for example. And two, people, there are now more options. So for example, people like me would rotate, even though I'm not really tired of playtime in PUBG, right? Because there's more maps that I haven't explored now, and game modes and weapons. So for me, reintroducing myself to PUBG, if I really loved it so much, then I would be playing it more now, because there's more content that I haven't explored. So it's not a content drive for me anymore. For me now, that's why I could play Warzone, I could play Apex if I want to play a Battle Royale, because I prefer that style of FPS over PUBG. But if you are a guy that like this more hardcore recoil system, like this is more hardcore in my opinion, it's easier to aim in Valorant and CSGO, than it is to aim in PUBG on some of the rifles, just because the incredible just the kick that you get from some of the weapon make them incredibly difficult, if not near impossible, to fully control during a spray. And that's great, and that is why I think PUBG has a very healthy future, because it seems like they have some good content introduced to the game. I don't know how the future is, but I know at least currently when I'm looking at it, there are some good maps that is very enjoyable with some different weapons. I think that the gameplay is still very fun and very unique, and kind of captures its own corner. For me, it feels like it's more optimized than it has ever been, which of course is a huge plus. If I'm ever sinking time into any FPS games, it needs to be able to run smoothly with stable frames. If not, then I don't want to touch it, because it doesn't feel good to play this type of games. And it has segmented itself down with a stable and what seems to be very loyal player base. I still question the introduction of bots in unrated games. I think it is a weird introduction. I think at best it could be something you could toggle on, and at that point I understand it. If you're brand new to the game, you can toggle on bots, or maybe it's auto toggled and you can toggle off when you don't want to play against bots. You might get long queue time if you don't play with bots, that's fine, but at least give me the option, because I didn't find any option to be allowed to take it off. And in general, I will give PUBG a 7 out of 10. That is my personal rating, and I would like to hear your down in the comment section. If you're new to the game, or especially if you're a veteran, you've played it a lot, you have been far more introduced to the changes and see it gradually how the game has developed over time, right? Again, I quit very early and left to other games. But if you have stayed and had a better overview of the game, I would love to hear what is your rating of the game from a scale from 0 to 10. Why not? Do you have any pieces and any type of discussion about the game, balancing how it feels, the future of it, or the past of how it was back then? Like that in the comment section. Of course, a like on the video as always helps against the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. It would be amazing if we could hit 20,000 subscribers by the year 2020, dude. If we could, by the end of this year, just have 20k subscribers, that would be amazing. We're super fucking close. So subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, share this video around. It's very much appreciated. And as always, guys, please do take care of yourself. Stay positive. I love you guys very, very much. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. As always, keep the enemy in your crosshair.